audio by Raising Free People Network.
I'm Akila S. Richards, grief literacy educator, longtime podcaster, here to explore what we lose individually and collectively when we fail to name grief as part of our everyday life. Grief isn't just about death, it's about endings, expired relationships, outgrown roles, identities and dreams we released. If we tend to grief in its diversity, we can expand our capacity to navigate change, to hold space for each other, and to move with more presence in a rapidly shifting world. This is What I Let Die podcast, where we move from grief struck to grief tending. What happens when we stop avoiding grief? Let's find out together. Hey, you. Welcome to What I Let Die, the podcast about the things we've had to let go of, on purpose or by force, and what those endings asked of us. This is episode 8, and we are in part 3 of our series. And in this part, we're talking about grief in community, understanding others, and also holding space. We've gone from the first segment where we talked about the foundations of understanding grief and including non-body death. Those were our first 3 episodes. Then we went with episodes 4, 5, and 6, and 7. We went into personal grief work, recognizing and managing our own losses. And I encourage you to swim in those episodes as well, because while this is absolutely a non-linear experience, there are some elements, especially in the first 3 episodes, that I feel can be really supportive for you as you move through something like grief in community, expanding grief beyond yourself. So listen how you want to, but maybe this suggestion can be useful for you, especially if you have not had the space in your life to tend to grief. These might feel like really good guardrails, really good walls, really good shoes for you to walk around in as you feel into this and give it some light. So today, let's talk about grieving together, not in the we all feel the same thing at the same time and grief should look like this, not like that, but more of the can we learn to witness and honor each other's grief, even when it doesn't look familiar or loud or legible kind of way. That's what grief literacy can give us. And my God, we need more of it. Let's begin right here with the kind of grief that doesn't get named out loud, because we're touching on so much of that through these episodes. In this instance, we're talking about the kind that gets packed into a smile or a spreadsheet, the kind of grief that rides in with your coworker on a Monday morning or sits silently in your neighbor's throat while they wave politely from across the street. So we're talking about silent grief. Silent grief is everywhere. It's the person who stopped talking about their miscarriage because people don't know how to respond. It's the person who's not talking about that death they experienced because they don't want to, as I've heard someone say about their grief, like skunk up the room, smell up the room with their grief. It's the teenager who lost a sense of safety in their home. It's the elder in our community who is burying friend after friend after friend and still being expected to babysit the grandkids and make the potato salad. It's also you, maybe. And it's hard to recognize if we're only looking for tears or loss that we can easily name. This is why this whole ass episode is centered around silent grief and how we move through that together. In the first caravan of the eyelid course, the I Let It Die grief tending course, that first round was almost a year ago now, someone said something that really cracked something open for me. She said, there's been so much performing involved in not feeling the grief, and it started so young. She said, my 8-year-old has been present with me. My 8-year-old self has been so present with me throughout this. And then she went on to talk about it. But y'all, when she said there's been so much performing involved in not feeling the grief, that just like landed in my chest and just opened up and spread out so wide. And when she said she was 8, that really took my hand. It held my hand and squeezed it. Because when we are children, we learn so quickly what is welcomed and what is not. What feelings get rewarded, what feelings get dismissed. What kind of grief is too much. So we perform, we edit, we rehearse how to tuck it away. We look around to see if other people are moving through grief, and usually what we see is they are not, because we don't talk about it and our adults don't talk about it. So then we grow up, and that grief gets quieter, but not smaller. That's the thing. It shows up in overworking, in underreacting, in controlling everything around us because everything inside feels like it's too much. This is one of the reasons that grief in community matters so much, because so many of us are still performing. The grief got quiet, but not smaller. So we're still hiding the depth of what we've carried. And when we build spaces where grief can just be, when we do things like what we're doing now, we stop asking it to perform too. And when the grief stops performing, then we can look around and realize how much of a hand we had in that performance, and we can start to do something different. So why collective grief matters, why collective grief work, let's keep the work part in there, why that matters, is because grief work is not just personal. It's communal. It's communal anyway, even when we feel like it's personal. And when I say grief work, I don't mean working to fix it or resolve it. I mean tending to it, by witnessing it, by staying with it, by letting the silence hold shape, letting the tears fall where they need to, letting the rage be ragey, letting the joy sneak in too without apology. When we talk about something or someone that we have lost, even when we talk about the parts of it that we appreciated, the parts that brought us joy, we are teaching the people around us to hold grief. We are teaching ourselves that we are allowed to also remember why we are grieving the loss. And we're grieving the loss because in so many ways, it brought us joy, in addition to many other things, perhaps. And not always, but oftentimes, enough times for it to be relevant here to talk about letting the tears fall, letting the silence hold shape. Collective grief work looks like a neighborhood vigil, a kitchen table circle, a Zoom conversation, about a particular type of grief, a Discord or a Slack channel. Do we still use Slack? I don't know. Where somebody could say, I lost my person today. And the replies are real, not robotic condolences, but actual presence. A Zoom meetup where somebody can say, I miss this aspect of whatever the thing was that they lost. And we can have our cameras on and look and allow them to see us being there, holding our discomfort, not holding it in, but just being with it together. It's never about having the right words. It's about not looking away. Now let's talk a little bit when we talk about collective grief and grieving together, grieving community. I'm also going to talk about work here because we spend so much time, so many of us, at our jobs or with the people that we are working with, if we are entrepreneurs or small business owners. So let's talk about work because workplaces are some of the most grief illiterate places I know. You get a day off or two maybe for what they call a bereavement leave, and then you're back, expected to perform, to be professional, to be grateful for the flexibility if someone lets you get off camera. It's so inhumane. And while I get that work has its own rhythms and responsibilities, people don't stop being human because it's 9 a.m. and the Zoom meeting started or the in-person shit started. So here's what I want to say about grief at work. Do not avoid it. Don't drench it in platitudes. Don't center yourself. If your coworker is grieving, don't ask them what they need unless you're ready to meet that need. Okay? This is why I'm talking about grief literacy here is a part of grief tending. So, for example, if you avoid addressing someone's grief at work because you feel like you need to have the right thing to say, or you avoid it because you're like, I don't even have space for it because I got my own shit going on. Here are some things that you can say instead of not saying anything, or instead of saying something that you cannot actually hold. You can say something like, I'm thinking of you. Or you can say something like, if you're working on a project together, I could take the lead on this part. Something like that is relevant and valuable because you're not trying to fix the grief, but you're trying to support the person in a way that in this moment could be helpful. I could take the lead on this part. Or I'll check in on you next week, see if you want to go to lunch or something. And then actually do what you say you're going to do. That's an example. We are not born knowing how to recognize grief in other people, but we are born with skills that can support us in learning how to recognize grief in other people. We can learn to ask different questions. We can learn to notice someone's silence and when that silence is stretching a little longer than normal for them. We can learn to offer presence instead of solutions. Do you hear that? I know that was huge for me. It's still something huge for me to practice presence instead of solutions. So before we part ways for this week, here's what I want to leave you with. Here are the questions that I invite you to let work you. Here are the questions that you might even offer to someone else. Who might be grieving quietly near you right now? And part 2 of that question, what would it take for you to show up, not to fix, not to cheer them up, but just to be with? And I got one more question. What performance are you still doing to hide your own grief? What performance are you still doing to hide your own grief. Because whatever it is, I'm telling you right now, it's okay to lay that down. You do not have to perform, not here, while you work these questions and let them work you. All right? So thank you for making time for yourself today and for being with me as I make time for myself and my skills and wisdom and unlearnings and detangling with grief. Thank you for being part of that. Remember that over on radicalselfie.org, I do what I call a postmortem about each episode, where I pose the questions in the episode and a few other reflections that I maybe didn't share in the episode, and also some context for the episode. Also, the postmortem will always link to the WILD Podcast chat room inside my Circle community, where I'm really hoping that we can continue these conversations and expand them. And I'm so appreciating the feedback that I'm getting from you already about these episodes. Let's keep on reflecting and excavating and snorkeling, not going too deep, but just shallow, snorkeling right quick, right where we can stand up in the water if we need to. But let's keep tending to our grief in these ways. I will talk to you next week. Peace and love.
This episode is part of a multi-episode series that serves as a public, free grief literacy project called What I Let Die podcast. The show is co-produced by Akila S. Richards and Kate Umstatter-Thompson. Show art by Chris Richards. Much of the content comes from or is inspired by Akila's Grief Tenders course, called the Eyelid Course, an acronym for I Let It Die. Show notes and resources are available at radicalselfie.org/wild. Share the show with friends and be sure to rate the show wherever you listen to it.